Buff Army, we're talking about the use of weightlifting belts in training. Should you use a weightlifting belt? Today I'm going to answer that question. What does a weightlifting belt do? Well, essentially what a weightlifting belt does is help increase your intra-abdominal pressure by tightening your core. This helps support your back slightly as well as reducing the risk of injury. Some individuals will also notice a strength increase when squatting and deadlifting with a weightlifting belt, anywhere from between 10 to 20 pounds. I don't use any type of belt. Workout belts, seat belts, I don't even plan on visiting the asteroid belt. Growing up, I was a big fan of astrology. The question then becomes, who should use a weightlifting belt? I'll answer a simpler question first. I'll tell you who should not, and that's absolute beginners. Absolute beginners have to first master the technique of the major movements first. If you're sore after deadlifting in your lower back, if you're sore for several days, several weeks after deadlifting, my man, you were doing it incorrectly. You need to nail down that form. If you're inexperienced or you got shitty technique and you start using a weightlifting belt, it's really like putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound. It's going to do absolutely nothing. It's not going to reduce that risk of injury because your form is still absolute dog shit. And for a large portion of my subscribers, after reviewing the videos you've sent me on your technique and the amount of weight you lift, I would not recommend using a weightlifting belt. I never used a weightlifting belt until I was deadlifting 480 pounds. I know a lot of strength coaches that are actually against the use of weightlifting belts, especially since for most guys, their ego would do most of the talking. And when it comes time to lift in the gym, they'll artificially lift more weight with a belt, doing that incorrect technique, setting themselves up for injury in the future. I'd much rather you be safe, lift heavy, nail down that proper form, and do some smart planned progression over time in order to increase your lifts. With that being said, there are times in certain instances where the use of the belt could be beneficial. The first is those that train for maximal strength and already have decent strength gains. You know, if you can already squat over 3 and some odd plates, if you can deadlift, let's say 400 pounds, and you're going for maximal strength, you're lifting just to lift more weight, then the use of a weightlifting belt can be beneficial for you when you're trying to do those max efforts. I mean, if you've never done 600 pounds on the deadlift before and you're unsure of your technique, it'd make a whole lot of sense using a weightlifting belt for safety. 2. Those who train with a high volume and their lower back might not be sufficiently recovered for the next training session. I fall into both 1 and 2, lifting for maximal strength, and I handle and do a lot of volume. I mean, I'm squatting currently twice a week as well as deadlifting. I don't have enough time for my lower back to recover between sessions. By using a weightlifting belt on my maximal loads, the maximum weight I'm lifting, it helps not only keep my back safe, but as well reduce the amount of fatigue my lower lumbar suffers. Thus, for me, the weightlifting belt allows me to handle slightly more volume by allowing less fatigue on my lower back, as well as making me feel comfortable and safe attempting maximal lifts. My best advice, instead of getting a weightlifting belt, is checking your ego at the door, making sure you're very cognizant, you're very aware when you lift. Now, if you want to use a belt or you're already using a belt, here's a great general guideline as to how you should use that belt. I see too many trainees wearing a belt constantly. They'll wear the belt when they're not working out, when they're doing warm-up sets. You only want to use a belt for maximal efforts. So we're talking about loads about 85% or greater than your 1 rep max. Now let's say you squat right now 400 pounds. This would mean, approximately about 350 pounds and greater, you start using that weightlifting belt. As soon as the weight starts to get very heavy, make sure, guys, if you're going to buy a belt, you invest in it. You want a belt that's going to last your lifetime and is actually guaranteed to support your back. Personally, I went with Inzer. You can go with any choice that you want, any reputable choice. I got a custom made, so I got a purple belt because purple's fucking badass. And I'm going to be using it, as I said before, only on max effort lifts. So every single week, I probably use my belt about 6 to 8 times. Only 6 to 8 sets in total. Of the 130 sets I do in a week, only maybe 6 to 8 will be using a belt. And if you do get a belt, make sure that you actually break into it so then when you wear it around your back, it supports it. When you get it new, a good solid belt, it'll be stiff as fuck. So you got to make sure that you roll it. You want to take some time, 30 minutes, rolling it like so. Maybe put it underneath your bed. You can even run it, if it's reputable and solid, you can run a car over it. Make sure that you allow it to be broken into, because then it'll mold to your actual back. Summary of this video, you should use a belt if you have no balls. Yeah. No, yeah, seriously. When used correctly, weightlifting belts could be another tool in your arsenal. Just don't let it become a crutch. Do you use a weightlifting belt? Share below in the comment section. That's all I gotta say, guys. I'm probably gonna go outside and start whipping random people with this belt. Make sure to like, share with friends, and subscribe. I'll be seeing all my peeps in the next video.